In the late 90s, a roar rose from Japan that would shake the world of combat sports. Pride Fighting Championships. It wasn't just a fight organization, it was a spectacle. Here, fighters became warriors. Heroes faced monsters. It was bright lights, booming voices, and a clash of titans on sacred ground. Pride was more than a show. It was a dream where the impossible seemed within reach. Each event was a stage for the extraordinary. Martial artists from every corner of the globe converged in a theater of chaos and discipline. Pride celebrated honor, but it also embraced the wild and the unpredictable. And yet, for all its grandeur, Pride was built on foundations few truly understood. The beauty of it was undeniable. The mystery of it, unavoidable. This is where legends were made. This is the rise of Pride. Welcome to Deeper Into the Cage. What is up, my friends? Welcome to my home studio. My name is Robin Black. I'm a practicing lifelong martial artist, and I analyze martial arts. It's a gift. I also got to work on Dark Side of the Cage. Dark Side of the Cage is a series on Vice. It is just a brilliant piece of storytelling, 10 episodes. This is Deeper Into the Cage, a podcast where we dig a little bit deeper, we look under the hood, and we bring in some guests to talk about their involvement in the Dark Side episode and to give us more insight into the topics. Today, we're talking about the greatest mixed martial arts promotion in the history of mankind, Pride Fighting Championships. Dark Side of the Cage, episode 6 is The Rise of Pride. This is Deeper Into the Cage, where we take a look at the making of that episode and we talk to some legends. We talked to Don Frye, who is one of the iconic figures from Pride. He also has more testosterone running through his veins than any man who has ever lived. He's got a killer mustache, and he's got one of the great fights of all time. And Mark Coleman. Mark Coleman is one of the pioneers of blending wrestling and fighting, and he is a gem of a human being. We're digging into the greatest mixed martial arts promotion ever. This is Deeper Into the Cage. Before we roll, let's take a look at the trailer for Dark Side of the Cage, The Rise of Pride.
Pride Fighting Championships was the greatest thing on the planet. You know, it was like the Super Bowl.
Top US guys competing in Japan.
The people freaking loved it.
And right at the time, was heavily involved with the Yakuza.
I saw the gang war in Tokyo Dome. Pride was just a circus almost.
They wanted their guys to win, and they wanted you to lose.
Marishta was found dead in a hotel room.
He hung himself.
Do you believe that story?
No, I don't.
Dark Side of the Cage, Wednesdays at 10 on Vice.
I want to ask you about an era of your life. It's probably, something you should be very proud of, and I hope you are today, but about the era when you were in Pride. Can you tell me about what it was like as a young man going over to Japan when you went over and started fighting in Pride?
It was so epic, so amazing. I won my first 3 UFCs, and because I won them because I put the bottle down. I was an alcoholic my whole career, but I was able to put the bottle down for certain fights. In the first 3 UFCs, I was making a name for myself, and I grinded. And when I trained, look, I don't think I should have ever lost a fight. If I would have prepared properly, I'm gonna be hard to fucking beat by anybody. But after I beat Severn, I got a call from Brazil. They want to fly me to Brazil and pay me to do an appearance. As a wrestler, we're not used to any of this kind of treatment. And I took Randleman over there. Hell yeah! But I got to fight Maurice Smith coming up. But I went over there and I stayed for a month, but I didn't train one time. I just fucking partied. And then when I got back, I had 2 weeks to prepare for Maurice. And basically, I just blew it. It was the dumbest, most humbling thing in my life. It was like really one of the only times, even in wrestling or fighting, that I thought I was going to beat somebody without fucking working hard. So I was just delusional and I damn near did. I beat the hell out of him for 3 minutes. I knocked him out with a headbutt and woke him up with another one, but then I took a break at 3 minutes and I started feeling my hands seizing up, and then it went 21 minutes. I have no idea how I lasted, heart attack wise, or the leg kicks were just brutally painful. But I got through it. But wow, that was so humbling. And then, well, I didn't. Unfortunately, it wasn't the last time that I did that, because my career was just, it was very obvious when I was training and when I wasn't. It was just very obvious. But no, I'm proud. I accept everything. After the Marie Smith loss and I blew my knee out, the Pete Williams head kick, then Pedro Hizzo, who I felt like I beat him for sure, but they wanted to get rid of me. They were trying to get rid of me for a long time. I wasn't happy with Big John McCarthy's officiating multiple times in multiple fights. He fucking basically just screwed me over. And I'll talk about that some other time. He denies it, but the facts are the facts. But then finally I get cut and picked up by Japan. I do the Tata fight, which everybody knows was a work. And then I had to fight Ricardo Moraes. I had a 6'9", 275-pound Brazilian black belt. I had to beat him to get into the tournament. And that was the biggest fight of my life at that point, because if I lose, I'm done. And then I beat him. And then I had like 9 months preparation for the Grand Prix. I knew I was winning that thing. I mean, nobody else did, but I knew it.
Yeah, amazing, man, amazing. Those moments watching you win those fights are just so incredible. It must have been in full giant stadium arenas in Japan. It must have been so wild. I'm going to ask you more about that, but you mentioned the Takata fight, and it was a work, which is something history knows, you've talked about before. Were you in an environment where you kind of thought, is this pro wrestling or is this fighting, or did they just come to you? Did they imply threats, or was it money? How did that happen with that work?
It was real simple. I had moved out to California, and I was training in pro wrestling a little bit, but I was cut, man. I didn't have a job, so now I'm getting it together, and I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm just in California training. I got nothing going on. I got 2 kids. I'm poor, and I'm out of a job, and then finally, like Rick Bassman, who was at Extreme University, was kind of my manager at the time. He told me that Japan's flying in to have a meeting with me, and I'm like, oh, that sounds good. Well, yeah, we sat in there. They kind of approached it as it was a pro wrestling match. We're going a very stiff pro wrestling match, and well, they told me I had to fight him, and they said $300,000. $300,000. I said, but then it wasn't 300,000. It was 30,000, 300,000 yen, $30,000. And then I'm like, I didn't want to do this for 30,000, because I didn't want to do it, but I'm going to do what I have to do.
Yeah.
And they went up to about 75,000, and I said, okay, I'll do it. And that was my only opportunity to get into the Pride Grand Prix. So I'm not proud of it, but I'm not ashamed of it.
Your honesty of it actually makes it just fit into a part of the storytelling of the history so well. It's nothing to be proud of or ashamed of. It was the moment in time traveling through the world, and you being honest about it lets us see it as part of history. So it is what it is.
Well, when I got sober, that's the best thing about getting sober, because when you're drinking all the time, you got to lie all the time. And getting sober, I don't have nothing to hide. I got nothing to fear. And one of the best things about getting sober is I don't have to lie. I don't like to lie. So, honesty is one of the greatest gifts in the world.
I don't want to take too much of your time, man. I appreciate you so much. And honestly, it's been a very inspiring chat. I do want to ask you, speaking of inspiring, the moment after you fought Fedor, and I've shared it myself, is on Father's Day, when my daughter was born, you with your daughters talking about Fedor in that moment. Do you remember it vividly? And can you share anything about that moment?
Oh, I remember details, man. It was like yesterday. You know, you know, you know, Pride asked me. They knew that the Japanese fans just knew how much I love my kids, and they asked me if they could bring my kids to the fight and put them in the ring after the fight. And I said, well, yeah, if everything's okay, I said, yeah, if everything's okay, no problem. But they didn't watch the fight. I wish they would have watched the fight. They had him back in the room. I wish they would have watched the fight, but they drug him in afterwards. They drug him in there and threw him into the cage. And I turned around and holy shit, man. I just couldn't believe it. I was like, what the? And I just had to react as a dad. And it just came from the heart. And I think it was absolutely perfect. You know, everything was perfect. And then we had the time of our life that night. Me and my kids had the time of our life. And then the next morning we had the time of our life. And hey, man, people called me the worst dad in the world. I felt horrible, but really, F you, everybody. Yeah. F you, you cowards, you sissies. Look, my daughters learned a valuable lesson that day. Valuable lesson. Life's going to be hard. You're going to get knocked down. Get the hell back up and move on so everybody can rot. You know what I mean? I mean, too
I
bad.
agree with you.
Too bad. There's so many sissies in this world now. This world's falling apart with obesity and laziness. The food is garbage. It's sickening, man. I mean, I can't believe what these people eat. You know, it's just killing them. And there's no discipline. People live to eat. I live to eat too, but I live to put something healthy in my mouth. Mm-hmm. These people put sugar is just so delicious, but so nasty. And the oil, everything. You know, I'm just happy I'm on this health kick, man. I'm trying to be the best version of myself I can be, and I'm trying to get better. I work out literally every day. I've only missed 2 days. That's because I was in a coma in that fire. In the last 2 years, I've only missed 2 days, and then a day. I get up at 7 and I start the day, and I can do two things at once. Like when I drive my car, it's never just driving. I got a whole routine that I do when I'm in there driving. I exercise my toes, my fingers, my everything. My feet were so damn weak a year ago. You know, I can walk on my toes pretty much now. So I'm obsessed, and I love it. I love it. By the time I'm already sore right now, but by the time tonight gets here, I'll have troubles walking to the bed. You know what I mean? And I love it. I'll sleep it off and wake up feeling good.
Sleep like a baby. Well, Mark Coleman, thank you for hanging with me. Let me say, as a father to a daughter, when you are all busted up, but talking to your daughters after daring greatly, and then with the enthusiasm of a father who loves them, getting them excited and letting them know that life is what it is, and that man is a kind man, and we're going to do something fun. To me, that's the kind of father, and maybe I get the hate for saying this too, but that's the kind of father I hope to be to my daughter, and thank you for giving me that example.
Well, you're a smart man. What the hell? That's the kind of father you need to be. So, yeah, my kids are my life. I got 3 daughters. I live with my oldest one, and she's a lot like I was, and it's scary.
Well, good luck with that, man. I'm going to stay in touch with you. I value you and appreciate you greatly, and thank you for giving me your time and your insight. Lots of love to you and your family, my friend. What is a dojo storm? Well, loosely, a dojo storm is when somebody shows up at your gym, your martial arts academy, and challenges the master to a fight. The most important dojo storm in human history has to be the dojo storm that actually started Pride. Do you know about this? I'll give you the quick history. The year is 1994, and there's a man called Hixon Gracie living in California who is challenged. At his doorstep arrives, actually let me read a couple of excerpts from some much more skilled writers than I. This was from Budo videos. December 1994, Yoji Anjo, pro wrestler, decided he would be the one to put Hixon Gracie in his place. Accompanied by members of the Japanese press, Yoji flew to California to confront Hixon at his LA dojo. Anjo came to LA under the guise of inviting Hixon to fight in Japan. As Hixon refused to go to Japan, they decided to settle the score right then and there. This really is the beginning of Pride. Anjo showing up and challenging Gracie to a fight. Hixon sent away all of the media, all of the photographers, and invited him in for the fight in the gym. Now, there's lots of stories about it. The story is told beautifully in this episode of Dark Side of the Cage. Among the people that were present when this fight took place was Hixon Gracie. I spoke with Hixon. He's a brilliant martial artist in his own right. And Hixon was just a little kid, but many people have told the story. Our job was to reenact this. Now, there is footage of this in existence. Hixon has it. No one has ever seen it. But the story's been told enough of how the fight takes place, different positions that happen in the fight, when the punches are landing, a few elements that take place that are talked about more deeply in the episode. My job as the fight coordinator was to reenact this. Now, we have stories of it, but it's not just reenacting the stories. The job is to think back to the 1990s, how these positions were expressed then. What the mount looked like in 1990s, even from a genius like Hixon Gracie compared to now. And truthfully then, everything was much more primary colors. The mount looked like this, back mount looked this way, a pass would be much more rudimentary. Again, even with the geniuses of the era, it was a much more, ABCs and 1, 2, 3s, a little bit of do, re, mi's thrown in there, but very primary colors, very blunt, and so we reenacted that. It looks so real. The way that our team shot it, the way that people built the sets, the way the costume people put it together, and then our team shot it on old VHS video. It looks so real that in the episode, we literally have to put reenactment on it so that people know. It is truly a brilliant piece of filmmaking that I was fortunate enough to get involved in. But it's a beautiful reenactment using the stories told by people, including Hixon, who was gracious enough to tell the story, and people who are present telling the stories. Then we get to reenact it, shot by and put together by incredibly talented teams of directors, shooters, lighting, all of that, and you see it. And I think when Hixon and Kron and many of the people that were there see it, what we created, I got a feeling it looks pretty similar. The grittiness, the rawness, it's truly beautiful. And I'm really excited for people to see this episode. And the episode is brilliant. The storytelling is brilliant. Pride, there's just so much there. And the way our team has put it together using Japanese elements, this is a beautiful couple of episodes. And it's a double episode, and Pride deserves that. But this dojo storm sequence in particular, like I said, it looks so real in its presentation that if we didn't put reenactment on it, you wouldn't know it. And I don't just mean the way it looks, I mean the way that the filmmakers, the way that the tools that we use to present it, it's amazing. I can't wait for people to see it. I'm glad I got you on. We were talking about it earlier, and I'm like, Don Fry definitely knows how to use a chainsaw and a machine gun, but I'm not sure if he knows how to use a phone. But you know what? Here we are. We're doing good.
No, you give me the other two. I'd get something done with those.
I believe it. I believe it. I really appreciate you coming in, man. And also, thank you for being part of the Pride episode. I know you haven't seen it yet. When we're talking, it hasn't aired yet, but it's a beautiful story, and your story is a big part of it. So thank you for letting my team and our team come in and chat with you about Pride.
Well, thanks for involving me. I appreciate it. Nice.
It's a wonderful story. It's two-part story. When you first were getting on a plane to fly to Japan to fight people in a ring in front of that many people, what were you thinking back then?
I was just worried about the competition. I wasn't worried about the money or the crowd or anything like that. I just wanted to be the top competitor. I wanted to win the fight. I wanted to put on a great fight and win the fight.
And those two things are very different, right? And one of the reasons the Japanese loved you so much is you didn't just win, but you did put on a great fight. You were a hero. They're looking for heroism and overcoming obstacles. Did you feel that connection to the Japanese? Could you tell how much they loved you?
Oh yeah, they always treated me great, and if there's any place else in the world I'd live besides the U.S. of A, it'd be Japan. Just the whole island nation is just it's a spiritual country, and the people are just friendly and they're respectful, and they treat you with respect and love and kindness. Courtesy.
And a big American with a cowboy hat and a mustache might seem on the outside to not have anything in common with these people in Japan, and yet you connected with them and they connected with you like crazy.
Yeah, it was neat, because they respected me and I respected them, and it showed from both sides.
In the dark side of the cage and the telling of the Pride story, among the many things, you and Akiyama is a big part of that story. That's considered one of the great fights ever. What did you think going into that fight? First of all, did you know Akiyama? What did you have in mind for what that fight might look like and how it might unfold at the time?
I didn't know anything about him, because it was supposed to be my rematch against Coleman. So I'd gone over to BJ Penn's place in Hawaii and traded BJ's studio for 3 weeks. And I was at the top of my game, boy. I was ready to go. And then I got the call that, Coleman got hurt and he might have broke his neck. So that kind of freaked me out a little bit. And then, because I had broken mine twice, and um, I got to worry about him, and then I said, "Yeah, you probably got to pull your head out of your ass and be concerned about yourself. You got a fight coming up." So I got back into training.
And then you find out you're fighting a nearly 7-foot tall Japanese man. And you undoubtedly saw him face to face in the days leading up to it. What were your thoughts about him before the fight?
I thought that was one big man, and I'm gonna have to get a step stool to hit him, heck. And he was tougher than what I thought. That's for damn sure. He's everything that is Bushido.
When you're in the middle of it, you two are standing there getting a hold of each other and just smashing each other, trying, fist and knuckle for knuckle and will for will. While you're in that, do you remember the experience of being in one of the great fights ever? Do you remember the moments?
Yeah, it was great. It was exciting. The reason I grabbed his neck, because if you watch, we walk out there and then he hits me and it swoops my feet out from underneath of me. Usually you fall backwards, but he hit me and my feet went like that. So I had to grab him to hold on, keep from falling. And that's how that started. And, you'd hear the crowd just went nuts. And then looked over and saw Yumi Shimada crying, and I was like, wow, this is really a good show going on right here.
It sure as hell was. To this day, I'm sure people still ask you about the whole experience, about your whole fighting career, many things in your life. But I'm sure they ask you about this as long as you live, they will. But that's what it is to create a great moment and great moments and a great trait of an experience like that. Afterwards, you two have both spoke about how deeply you respected each other. Did you speak to him in the years after?
Yeah, I got lucky enough. The great, God damn it. I went over there for All Japan Pro Wrestling, for a pro wrestling event. Muda brought me over. And then Muda and I went to the hospital and saw Takayama-san there.
Don, thank you again. Thank you for one of the greatest fights ever, and thank you for spending time with me, and thank you for chatting with us for Dark Side of the Cage. We really appreciate you.
Thank you. Thanks for remembering me.
Thank you for sharing this with me. Thank you for coming into my home, listening to these brilliant martial artists speak, hearing a couple of stories. It was a real gift to work on this episode, like this entire series, and some brilliant things from our guests. You can hear some of these conversations in their entirety at Vice TV on YouTube. We call it Cage Talk. You can also find it wherever you get your Vice podcasts. Next week, we continue with the fall of Pride. It's a tragedy that this, world of cartoon superheroes that was Pride came and went, or maybe it isn't. Maybe one of the things that makes it so beautiful is that it burned so hot and then disappeared. But next week we dig into the fall of Pride. That is episode 7 on Dark Side of the Cage. You watch it on Vice. You follow Vice TV to see where to watch the real episodes of Dark Side of the Cage. My name is Robin Black. It is a privilege to dig behind the scenes with you. Until next time, enjoy the hostilities, my friends.
Pride Fighting Championships was the greatest thing on the planet. It was like the Super Bowl.
Top US guys competing in Japan.
The people freaking loved it.
And right at the time, was heavily involved with the Yakuza.
I saw the gang war in Tokyo Dome. Pride was just a circus almost.
They wanted their guys to win, and they wanted you to lose.
Morishita was found dead in a hotel room.
He hung himself.
Do you believe that story?
No, I don't.
Dark Side of the Cage, Wednesdays at 10 on Vice.